The Solomon Islands are sinking. Rising sea levels are drowning this beautiful Pacific island paradise. This is also an area which is very earthquake prone, as we know. Especially lately, we just had a very big quake today. Now we went searching for the lost island of Kale, but we found rotting gray skeleton of an old tree drowned by the sea. This is by John Ingham, Daily Express, Environment Editor on Express UK. He says that 40 years ago, this was home to a very thriving fishing community. Children from across the village from the bay used to sail over, spending happy weekends camping, and all that remains today of this once beautiful green rainforest island with coconut palms and wooden homes is a wreck of a sea oak jutting 8 feet out of the Pacific Ocean. And this is in 40 years. In 2016, Kale, pronounced Carlay, was among the first 5 islands confirmed to have been lost because of rising sea levels. The Australian scientists say that the Solomon Islands is a sea level rise hotspot. Levels are being forced up by the melting polar ice caps and glacier, plus the expansion of water because of warmer temperatures, and the huge volumes of water being pushed westward from the eastern Pacific. So these islands are drowning, and they're warning of what lies in store for coastal communities, and not only here, but around the world. Villagers here grew crops, planted coconut trees, built homes on stilts, and they are now just rocks on the white, sandy seabed. The way of life has been wiped off the face of the earth, and there is total destruction of what they used to know. Even at low tide, the person says, I was up to my waist in water. We'd gone back at high tide, and the sea level would be up to my neck. Now, the environmental campaigner Lawrence McKillie, whose wife's family once lived here, the sight was overwhelming. He covered his face with his shirt, sobbing from the loss of the island that withstood storms for centuries, only to succumb to man-made climate change. He said, it's heartbreaking, it's shocking. I'd expected to see some sand dunes at least, and I spent 2 Christmases here with my wife and 2 kids only 20 years ago. What am I going to tell my children? 40 or 50 years ago, there was a fishing village here and about 20 people. My mother-in-law, he says, lived here. They grew vegetables, everything they needed, he was here. We had houses. I have so many happy memories of Kylie, and now it's gone. As we left, we passed 2 more islands that have sunk beneath the waves. So, as we know, this is just going to get worse. Then he came to another little island called Heta Heta, and it's broken into 10 smaller patches of land, and of course is inundated by water. There's one dead palm tree standing in the middle of the sea like gray ghosts, and Hele Hele, he said, was one island about 15 years ago, and those dead trees were alive just 5 years ago, he said. The villages of Kolopakitsa and Santa Isabel Island, they were beautiful flowers growing beside wooden houses on stilts. And to Chief Christopher Lenga, 69 years old, describes this area that he said the destruction of Kale, Rapita, Kakatina, and Heta Heta happened over his lifetime. He said, I witnessed these islands disappearing, and these islands were important for us. Kale was a complete big island. There was a fishing village and a coconut plantation, and when I was a boy, I used to go there and spend up to 2 weeks fishing. Now it's gone, and the destruction got much quicker than in the past 20 years. We are worried for the future, and if Kale can go, the whole coastline can be washed away. And this is, they have fears of this happening across the whole of the Pacific, which has many tiny islands, of course. And earlier this year, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned that rising sea levels is a threat worldwide, and it could hit the living conditions of more than 1 billion people from the Pacific to Bangladesh, even to Miami and London. And unless this changes, it will take place. It will be something similar to what's happening in the Solomon Islands. Now, one of these islands is the island of Kiribati. It's sinking and disappearing due to climate change. And when we look at earthquakes, we know that Kiribati is always shaking with earthquakes because it's in a very unusual plate with a lot of tectonic plates there in the Papua New Guinea area and the Solomon Islands. The Republic of Kiribati, sovereign state situated in the Oceania continent, made up of 33 islands and atolls in the central Pacific Ocean. Kiribati capital is Tarawa, well, whatever, okay. I'm reading from their website here. Many remnants of Second World War are still available there, and it's well known for its handicraft and folk dancing. The population is about 110,000 people, and more than half of them live in Kiribati capital. The people are suffering with high water levels and tides, and half of their residents live in their capital called Tarawa, which is at the highest altitude, is only 9 feet above sea level. Can you imagine? I mean, what happens if you have a storm? Are you going to be swept into the sea? This is just too astonishing. This is unbelievable. I mean, these people are obviously going to become climate refugees. Where will they go? Normal people other than their residents need to carry oxygen masks to survive here because it's the peak point. Kiribati is a country which has various artists, amazing weavers, all right, fishermen, engineers and architects, and all this in the community of 110,000 people. Techniques for creating building and equipment they use for fishing, very unique here from the rest of the world in Kiribati, and English both are their official languages, but in rural and slum areas, people normally use Kiribati languages, and people are very warmest and friendliest across in the Pacific. Now, these people are very near to convert in climate refugees, and their country is sinking into the water day by day. They're very close to disappearing from the map. Kiribati will be the first victim of climate change. In the 21st century, we'll read this article and we'll be alive, but this country, Kiribati, will be fully submerged underwater. There was sea wall until the year 2010, but that is so small now, so low, getting washed away by the waves every day. A few days ago there were some houses, but now nobody knows where those houses and people who live there in them are. They may have moved somewhere else because of tides, but you can still see the remnants of their houses. Around 5 years ago, this place, EITA, EITA, just after the seawall was much crowded, but now is a place that is totally empty. Obviously, this has been translated from that language. There's only one single road connecting most points in the whole country, and transport runs through it. And you have food, water, school children, buses, trucks, workers, residents, everybody uses this one road. There's a huge problem now because the road is very close to getting wiped out because of the water. Whenever the waves come along, they force people to leave the road, and sometimes the sea wipes the vehicles into the sea. Now you'll always see some white sand right up to the tar of the road, and because the waves bring up the sand onto the road. Nobody cares about it. Still, in many countries and continents, governments are selling forests to corporations, and they don't care about climate change, obviously, they're trying to say here. They think it's very far away in the future, but the people in Kiribati know that it's happening to them right now. and they need to find a solution to save the lives of more than 100,000 people, and it's heartbreaking to hear, of course. Now, what is coincidence with Kiribati climate change? They are closest to international dateline. You live right on the crossroads of the equator. The coincidence is that the first people on the earth who watch the sunset first every morning, and coincidentally, Kiribati is also the first country to affect with real impact of climate change. And again, okay, they've obviously translated this from some other language. So this is the heartbreaking aspect of what's going on there. We realize that we don't have these problems, but they're living them every day. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.